All right. Hi, everybody. Today we have, for our virtual lunch hour, we have Siobhan Sullivan. Say hello, Siobhan. And we have Pat Emich. Say hi, Pat.
Hello.
All right.
Hi, guys.
And so we wanted to just use this opportunity to chat with folks that, were really instrumental in starting Protect PT, like Siobhan, and people that really have been working with us for some time now, like Pat, and kind of just talk about how we got started and have a really fun conversation to celebrate our 5 years together. Can you guys believe it's been 5 years?
That's amazing. I'm so proud of you guys for just continuing on. It's incredible.
So,
does it feel like 5 years again?
No, it doesn't.
30, 40.
No. And
I remember always feeling like, time was kind of like a time warp. You'd get into something and you kind of lose track of the days. Sometimes it would be like a day and it, feels like eons, and then sometimes it'd be a year and it just felt like a blink of an eye.
Yeah, for sure. And I can already tell that I'm probably going to have a little bit of tears today. You guys know me all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just pulling up some of our notes that we wrote down, our questions that I wanted to ask you guys today. I do have some pictures to share too. So I thought that might be a fun way to show folks like other stuff that we've been working on or kind of how we got started. So I don't know. Let me see this. I'm still like playing around with this technology to see if it's working. Can you guys see that up on the screen?
Oh my goodness. The farmers market was it Delmont Farmers Market?
Yeah.
By the railroad track?
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
And look how little.
Somebody donated plants. We were selling plants to raise some money. Did we have some baked goods too, I think? Some of Cheryl Kilroy's famous chocolate chip cookies.
Yes, yeah.
Big hit.
Yeah,
my daughter, she must have been 2 there.
And Aiden. Aiden was probably...
Yeah, my daughter's going on 8 now, 2nd grade. Oh my goodness.
Time flies so much.
And little t-shirts you made, you embroidered Protect PT so we could have a little advertisement.
That's right. Yeah, so I thought this might be a great way to kind of show everybody how we started and some of the ways that we started our fundraising efforts and things like that, to really just highlight some of the stuff that we did early on, because I know like I've been asked recently how we got the funding that we got, and this really started with just some neighbors, right, Siobhan? It just kind of started you and me and other people getting together. The first meeting was in my living room, and I can remember just meeting, and I wanted to ask you, like, what in that first meeting, what made you decide that you wanted to be the treasurer? I saw you raised your hand and said, I'll be the treasurer. So what made you decide to do that?
Oh my gosh. Well, before I answer that question on the treasurer, let me just back up on the whole, why did I even show up at that meeting?
Yeah.
So I got in something in the mail from the Mountain Watershed, just kind of announcing that the unconventional gas developing was happening. I forget the radius, was within a half mile of my home. And I think it was dated maybe late summer, early fall. And it was kind of one of those things I got in the mail and couldn't really absorb it all at the time. So I tucked it in a don't throw away, but check into it later pile. Well, I didn't uncover that again until around Thanksgiving. And when I finally read through it, I was like, oh my gosh, I've heard this buzzword of unconventional gas development, fracking. This is going to happen in my neighborhood, really? And it was kind of like a shock, and I started doing some research. And for anybody that's kind of gone into that depths of research, you realize how polarized some of the information is out there. You read one article, and it's completely safe and wonderful and progressive, and you read another one of things, people getting hurt and communities being damaged and the environment getting hurt, and what's reality, what's real when you have so much polarization. And so I started doing research, and the further I got into it, I said, you know what, I have to do something about this. I just can't sit idle. And honestly, at that point, when I realized it was oil and gas, I thought, they're huge. They're coming in. There's no way I can affect anything now. But I said, you know what? I'm going to show up, right? So I remember coming to your living room, not knowing any of you guys. I don't think I'd met any of you guys. You know, maybe heard some names in the neighborhood in our small community before, and realizing the commitment and education that you all had around the table, where you had kind of gone down that same path that I felt I had gone down, and just wanting to do something. And I remember when we were talking about, like, okay, let's get something started in the neighborhood here. Let's stand up and see if there's something we can do. And nobody said yes for treasurer. You know, it's kind of like, well, who's going to be president? Who's going to be vice president? And, you know, hands slowly went up, and treasurer, and nobody said anything. And I realized I had a financial background, so I said, you know, I have to have a voice here. So yeah, just stepped up when I realized that it was needed.
Nice. Yeah. And it's a good thing that you did, because you were our treasurer for several years, until 2018. You were a treasurer, and more than that, it's not just treasurer. When you're starting a small, you know, nonprofit, and I should say that, you know, some people start nonprofits because, or start working in a nonprofit because they maybe have that background, have nonprofit management background or something like that. I think that we all started because we found a need in the community. And I think that that's the difference between, between our little grassroots nonprofit and other nonprofits that maybe are larger. But I think that a lot of these efforts kind of really start from the need of there's something in the community that needs to happen. And I certainly think that happened with us, right?
And I also think recognizing, because I think our interest is more than just our own backyards as well, recognizing that people should be aware and concerned about this, not only when it's in their backyard, it could be in a friend's backyard, a family's backyard, just the fact that it's even happening out there, because it could come to your backyard, you know, and by then, I don't think it's too late ever to get involved. You should absolutely always get involved, but, you know, it's our backyard and your backyard, wherever you are.
And so I just remember, you know, when, you know, we first started working, and it was really a lot, me and you. I was a stay-at-home mom at the time. You were really pregnant. And then when you had your baby, you know, we really very quickly, I think, you know, kind of formed this friendship and, you know, this working relationship. And so we just really kind of buckled down and you know, talked to people, talked to some advisors. You had some friends that had done some things like this before. So tell me a little bit about what you remember from us kind of like doing our incorporation, and why we decided to go with Promote PT, because I tell the story all the time, but I'd love to hear your perspective as well.
Yeah. Oh gosh, reminiscing. I love it. It was a great time. I mean, it was scary. It was a whirlwind. It was hard. And we worked all hours of the day. I remember, I feel like I just didn't stop. It was like when I got on that mind track of just learning and becoming educated on what is fracking, what is unconventional gas development, what does that mean? You know, I'd be up till 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and sometimes I'd text you or some of the other members, and, you know, did you see this article? What about this? You know, things like that. And yeah, we'd work at the park. You know, I remember us bringing our little notebooks to the park when the kids would play, and, you know, sitting down on the floor in the living room. And, you know, I just think we really had our heart in it. We were committed, and we really gave it as much as we could. You know, I was pregnant and then on leave for a little while, but also working full time at the time. So it was definitely a lot to juggle, but it was worth it. You know, definitely worth it. And couldn't have done it singularly. You know, I don't think there's necessarily, I don't think any of us really, I mean, I think all of us were important and pivotal for this, but we could never have done it alone. And asking for support from other organizations and friends who had the know-how to start a nonprofit, and what does door knocking look like? What is canvassing? How are you an effective canvasser? things like that. And and we started to promote PT because and I think you still carry this vision, thought that it was more than just helping the community against unconventional gas development, that we realized that there's always going to be things that we can stand up for and be a voice for the people within the local governments, or, for different bills that are out there to help the community. So I think we had some really awesome ideas, and I think, as I said, I think you still do. I think the vision for this organization, with the right capacity of the support of the board members and supporting members, we can really achieve some wonderful things for the community.
Yeah, I just remember when we started talking about incorporating, and we had some early on discussions about this, that one of the things that we said is that we were hoping that fracking would be kind of a short-lived thing, and that it could be stigmatized sometimes, and it certainly is. We find that it's politicized, and when it really doesn't need to be necessarily. It could just be a matter of people protecting their community, which is what we wanted it to be. But rather than just taking something away from the community, because a lot of people could consider that we were just against something, we wanted to be for something instead. So, starting Promote PT with the goal and mission of safety, security, and quality of life for a more viable and communal future. I remember you coming up with some of those words. And it's like, what does that mean? And the fact that it can mean anything dealing with safety, security, and quality of life. So like this COVID-19 stuff is really... This is part of the Promote PT mission, to try to promote resources in the community, things that people can connect with. So that's an effort that we've been doing with Promote PT, efforts to bring sustainable development, different types of land use, and different types of ideas for renewables, and just really trying to grow the economics of the local community, and make it something different. So that's kind of where we are right now with it. And, we'd love to see it grow more, and if folks have ideas. But I just remember us having those early on discussions and thinking, this could be a lot more than just against fracking, and what does that mean? What does that look like to us, So I want to bring up here another photo, because I think it's fun to kind of look back. Let me see.
It's been a while since I've seen these two, and you too, Pat.
Yeah. Do you remember this photo?
Board meeting. What was the board meeting for?
Okay, so this was, we had just, here, let me move us. I'm trying to navigate this new program, and it's a little interesting. So this was, we had just had a big win in this picture. I don't know if you recall, but we had just fought the baby Draftina and white well pads. And I don't know which one this was after, but we'd had some successes. So we all went out to celebrate. And Pat's there, and many of our board members that we had at the time, many of our members that we had at the time that were, and of course all of us. And
they were very critical.
So do you guys remember what it was like when that first well pad was denied? Do you remember that? Do you guys want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I remember kind of fall to your knees a little bit when you get those wins, because it comes totally unexpected. There was a cameraman back in the back of the room, and when they made that announcement, I gasped because I was standing close to him, and he's like, "What's going on?" And I said, I don't really know what's going on right now. I mean, I was like totally taken aback by it, because it just seemed like things were starting to be swayed into what we wanted to have happen, especially with those three well pads, because they're so close together, and that was quite a moment. Yeah, it's one of the highs.
And I remember just feeling so proud of everybody, commissioners included, for listening, to our testimony and was that the time that we had a lawyer? We had the lawyers pretty early on to help be a voice for us in those hearings, I think.
Yeah, even before
coming together.
Yeah, even before we incorporated, right from the beginning, we had O'Day. He was our lawyer, and at Fair Shake. And Fair Shake, we're still using Fair Shake as our legal firm to this day. Of course, O'Day has moved on, and it was a little bit of a transition when he left. We were really sad, but we have a really great legal team now, still with Fair Shake, and so shout out to Fair Shake Environmental Legal Services. But those early on hearings, we were just still learning what to do, what the public could do, and we kind of had a plan. We'd meet in our living room and kind of talk about some of the impacts that we expect this type of development to bring, and what were the impacts that the community was concerned about. And, how do we speak to those in a manner that is informative, that's factual and educated, and not just say, go into a hearing and say, well, I don't want this to happen or I don't want that to happen. But talking really to the why of why it's important to be involved and why it's important to do something. We kind of got that early on, and I think that it really served us well. We also had, we started to have expert witnesses that would come and testify on our behalf to talk about the health impacts, to talk about the air impacts, and really that I was shocked the first time we had the denial of the well pad, and then it was another one and another one. And I really think that the industry was shocked because they didn't think that, they kind of consider us little ants that they could squish. And I think we proved them that there was a lot of power in people coming together, neighbors coming together.
That's what. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting right now to know that those well pads, even though now they have been approved, aren't there right now. So I think, even though things kind of got reversed a little bit, we've still slowed the progress of things for them.
That's right. And just to kind of give you an update, we have 12 well pads that were proposed for our community. 12. And there are 2 that are developed in 5 years. So I would consider that to be a big success. And,
where I think the one right in my neighborhood, there are 2 of them that I was pretty close to. I mean, I think that they were through all of the state permitting process. I think they were up to the final local approval. And had that hearing gone on and nobody spoke up. And the one that's going to have 10, I think it's 10 wellbores on it, if I'm not mistaken. It's going to be quite large.
Yeah. Well, there again is the importance of trying to come to the meetings. Watching what's going on in your community as far as, what are the commissioners talking about, what's your zoning board talking about, and trying to stay aware of those things. It's vital. I mean, it's absolutely vital. There was a time, and an experience that I had way back when, that if I had not been there at that very first meeting, there would have been no way that any of us could have denied that particular issue. So it is important to stay in touch.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's talk about this photo.
Mineral extract overlay, the MEO.
Yeah. So we were trying to figure out what we could do to bring attention to the mineral extraction overlay, which is an overlay that goes over 60% of Penn Township. And that overlay allows for natural gas, unconventional natural gas development, which is a heavy industrial operation in 60% of the township, lumping together the industrial zones, which is, this is an industrial operation. that's where it belongs, and lumping it in with the agricultural zones, which in our community is not just agriculture, it's agriculture and low density residential. And I would even argue that it's even medium density residential as well, because the residents that live there, this is very much a bedroom community. That's what we are. We're a bedroom community. And so we decided to take action. We wanted people to get to know about it. It seemed like we had been around for a while and nobody knew what we were doing, right? So, so talk a little bit about this picture, Siobhan.
Well, like you said, we've been around for a long time, and you feel like you're reaching people, right? Because that's the biggest thing, is just having a simple conversation, a back and forth with people, to share information, to hear their voice. And we were still meeting people that, we felt like this was so common, right? The mineral extract overlay, had been talked about so much, and we're still shocked to find out that people, well, what does that mean? Well, what's the MEO? So we just thought that we had to take a very public approach here. Now, was that with the march as well? Did we walk down to the township building after this?
Yeah.
So we were just very public with just very large handmade signs. We had a couple printed. Went at a very high traffic area at a rush hour time, and just passed out flyers and held signs. And afterwards, we had walked down to the township building for a meeting, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And actually, so this is on the busiest corner in our town, right on Route 130 and 993. So that intersection right there in the heart of Harrison City is where we were doing this. And we would literally stand at those lights during rush hour. This was like 3 to 6 o'clock. And we would hand out flyers about what we were, what we were trying to fight and why people should get involved. And I mean, we must have passed out hundreds of flyers because it was a nice sunny day, and a lot of people had their windows open, so we could just pass them out. Of course, we actually did get some pushback initially from someone at one of the gas companies. Actually called the police and told them that we were going to be disrupting traffic, and that we were going to be, really, we're just like a crazy bunch of, eco terrorists or whatever, that we're going to be making this mess of the community. And we had already talked to the local municipality and let them know that we were doing this, asked them if we needed a permit to do it, really crossing all our T's and dotting all our I's. And so they knew that we were going to be there. And actually they sent out 2 police officers to help us cross the street to keep us safe where we were. We were so thankful. And then they just hung out on the corner just to make sure everything was good to go. And, it was...
I kind of found out that I was related to one of the police officers.
That's a small town for you. And I mean, and it was like, this thing that somebody tried to turn into something really negative, and we wanted to just be really positive and just like, tell everybody our truth. There's truth in power, or there's power in the truth. And we wanted to tell our truth, and we wanted to do it in a way that was a peaceful protest, peacefully. And they made it out to seem like it was going to be something other than that. And it actually backfired, because the police chief emailed me afterwards and said, thank you so much for delivering what you promised. And we were, it was a pleasure, serving you guys and helping you. And we thanked the police officers for helping to keep us safe, because we marched from this corner up to the municipal building, which is sort of a narrow, busy street. And they came after us. So they really kept us safe. And we were so thankful that they were able to do that, to help us out.
Shout out to the Penn Trapper Police for helping with that. And also, I think you touched on another really important point of a lot of things that we overcame in the beginning. I'm not sure if it's pretty prevalent anymore, but the intimidation factor.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Of our members being approached after different meetings by some of the, some of the industries spokespeople, you know, and a lot of places down, and
they use that tactic all the time to threaten you with lawsuits and then try and attack you personally as well, you know, with personal lawsuits. You know, that's
Yeah. But I think that, you know, we try to always keep the approach that we're going to take the information that we have on the specific well site or whatever it is that we're talking about, and really just try to speak to those things and find out the facts. Like, we want to know the facts, and we as a community, if someone's going to be doing business in our community, we as a community have the right to know those facts and have a right to understand what's going to be happening so we can be better prepared. And I think that that's kind of at the root of what we do, not so much being like for or against something, but really being, you know, for protection of the community itself, and giving the knowledge to the community so they can feel that they are empowered to do something when something goes wrong, because, you know, ultimately something could go wrong. And there have been, this is not a hypothetical, there will be accidents in the future, unfortunately. You know, there's human error involved, and you're dealing with a highly explosive gas that you're extracting from, you know, 2,000 feet in the earth. So there will be, you know, things that go wrong. And so how do we be prepared for those things? And how do we be prepared for the consequences of that type of development in our community? So this is another picture of Pat. I love this picture. With a big MEO sign.
I'll tell you what, you know, standing in that spot at that time is, wow. I mean, you talk about memories. In that spot years ago when I moved into this township, which was in about 1958, right there used to be an old building right there that was called the Booster Club, and that's where I would go to the playground. And if we saw maybe 12 cars a day going down that road, you know, and that day, I mean, I can't remember how many thousands of cars we saw that day. It really was a learning experience for me to know how many people live in this community. And I really felt good after that day. I did.
Yeah, it was a really good day, and we had a lot of volunteers. A lot of people came from other communities. You know, and some we still talk to, like Dr. Cindy Walter. I remember she was out there and speaking the truth about a power plant that was also happening in Westmoreland County. We're still working with her on things, even though she actually just moved this past year out to another state. She still occasionally checks in with us and gives us input on things that are happening, because that scientific background is so important, and she just brings such value to what we have going on. Oh, okay. Here, I wanted to put a couple other ones up here. Wanted to see if y'all remembered this one. This is from our press conference. When we finally decided, you know what, you know, they enacted the MEO despite our efforts, the mineral extraction overlay, despite us going to all of the meetings and saying we don't want this in community, despite us bringing experts to the public hearing, despite us having a petition with over 825 signatures of people in a very small community, 825 signatures of people in the community. The vast majority of those people live here, and they ignored it. They ignored all of our evidence. They ignored all of what we had to say. And so we decided we were going to take them to court because they enacted it despite our protest. And so we had a press conference a couple years ago when we started our court case in front of the municipal building where we had marched up to before, you know, during that march. And we told them that, you know, we're gonna take you to court. We're going to be true to our word, because, you know, so many residents were saying, you know, the industry might take you to court because you don't do the right thing, because you listen to them, but we're going to take you to court, and it's because you did the wrong thing. And I think that that's a pretty powerful message. And so right now, just to kind of give you guys an update on the case right now, we're waiting to hear back from the Supreme Court. And all of this was based upon our Article 1, Section 20, Section 27 rights, the right to clean air and pure water, which, you know, we as Pennsylvanians have the right to. It's guaranteed in our Constitution. And it should carry the same amount of weight as the right to bear arms, the right to free speech. You know, we have the right to clean air and pure water, and that should be recognized. And it's not being recognized by every municipality, and it's not being recognized by the industry as a whole. So, yeah.
We've gone through a long haul to get to the Supreme Court at this point. It wasn't just a township Supreme Court. You had to go through. Do you want to talk about some of the hoops that you jumped through to get there?
Yeah, so, you know, this is actually one of the pictures of, I'm going to try to blow it up a little bit so people can see it. One of the pictures of us actually in front of the Westmoreland County Courthouse. You're here. It was cold. We had friends from Mountain Watershed. We had friends from Voice of Westmoreland, Cindy Walter from Westmoreland Marcellus Citizens Group, and Father Bernie was there as well. And of course, some of our experts. So Dr. Ned Katire, he talked about our public health. He was our public health expert and talked about the hundreds and hundreds of public health studies that show that fracking is harmful to not only humans, adults, but also children and fetuses. So whether it's, you know, you're growing in the womb to, you know, you're an adult, this is going to impact your life. And we've seen those impacts in Washington County time and time again. And so, you know, if we don't do something, we're going to see them here as well, which is why we kind of knew this when we started. We thought, you know, we don't want to have this burden for our community. And then we had Dr. Tom Daniels from Penn. He came all the way from Philadelphia to talk about the zoning principles and why you don't put an industrial operation in the middle of a residential neighborhood. To me, it seems pretty self-explanatory why you wouldn't do that, but you know, we wanted to make sure we highlighted that. So, and we had some of our wonderful members there as well. So, you know, we went to the
county court, right?
This was at the county.
It kind of makes you even wonder, you know, why do you have zoning at all? You know, I mean, if you can't zone that particular item, you know, if you can't zone an industrial complex in a residential area, why is there zoning at all? Which is, you know, was one of our points.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a good point, Pat, because not everywhere in Pennsylvania has zoning. It's not required. But when you do have it, you certainly should follow it. You know, you certainly should follow the basic principles, which, you know, seems to be. Go ahead, Siobhan.
I was going to say, I just think when people purchase property or buy a home in an area, recognizing and being aware of the zoning, they expect the reality to exist for that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that's a good point, because you have an expectation when you buy a piece of property, you have an expectation that the world around you is not going to change drastically overnight. I mean, that's why you bought your home there. That's why you wanted to set down roots there. That's why you wanted to raise your family there. You know, and this is what we're trying to maintain that continuity in our community. Yeah.
And the prospect of what it does to your property value. I mean, you have you know, $1 million house, which we do in this township, several $1 million houses right beside a huge well pad right now. And I'm sure they weren't expecting that either. You know, but it does. It decreases your property value as well. You know.
So I wanted to ask, I love the conversation that's going on, but I wanted to ask you both, what are some of your highlights, or some of the things that kind of stuck out in your mind, as far as what your work or involvement with Protect PT was? Siobhan, if you could go first, and then Pat.
Sure. So one thing that I think will always stick with me when I reflect back on working with Protect PT was just the magnitude of appreciation and support that community can give one another. That all you have to do sometimes is reach out and have a conversation. That really just sitting down and having, not just a few words or passing something out, but having a real conversation with somebody and understanding their perspective, and then them listening to yours can have a huge impact. I mean, that's really just was the success and founding of Protect PT, and, can really make waves and make things happen. So that'll always stick out. So. And I also think that it's never too late. That's something that I will never forget. Just refinding that letter at Thanksgiving and thinking that this is going to happen. There's no way we're ever going to stop this. But you know what? I still want to try. And look at us today. So realizing it's never too late to join, to be a part of something, to have your voice be heard. And to have somebody else speak up for you if you can't, if you aren't comfortable or don't want to do it yourself. I think that's another purpose of Protect PT. People are busy. Some people don't like to go to a public hearing, and speak in a microphone and talk. And send us a letter, have a conversation with us. You can have a phone call, you can write us a letter. So I think those two things will always stick out.
Yeah, and that's right. And you know what? That you bring up a really good point, Siobhan, because we wouldn't be anything without our members, and the members are the people that are engaging with us, are supporting us. We have a membership base because we knew early on that we were going to need that support, that public support, and that public support has just grown and grown throughout the 5 years that we have been doing this. And we just thank our members so much for sticking with us for so long. And if you are not a member, please join us, because we are, this is a testament to the amazing group of people that we have from the beginning starting. And so Pat, how about you?
Well, I think a lot of times you get, when you join this type of organization, you get some pushback from people. You get a lot of, way to go, glad you're in there, glad you fight for us. And then there are those people that push back on you and say, they've got a lot of money and you're never going to stop them. But, at the end of the day, at the very end of the day, regardless of whether you've won or you've lost, at least you can hold your head up and say, I've tried. I personally tried. And I think that we, to all of our members, to say that is quite an accomplishment, because we have, in many, many ways, had wins along the way. We might not have stopped them completely, but we've had a lot of wins and brought a lot of attention to this industry. And you can't say, that's for naught. At least you can say you tried. And for me, that was one of the best experiences that I've ever been able to have through this organization.
And Pat, actually, you had a previous experience with fighting something in the community before this. So can you talk about how did you find us? Do you remember how you found us? I know you do. Can you talk about that?
Because I lived in this township most of my life, but then when I remarried a wonderful guy, we moved to Penn Hills for a while. I came back and Mike says to me, this is an article I think you're going to want to read. And it was an article about all of you fighting this little power plant that was going up there. I think it was the very first one that Apex put in out there by William Penn. And I read the article and I sent a message to, it was the organization, I guess it was, but I didn't know I was sending it to Jillian. And I'm like, I'm sure they're really going to want to read this, but I'm going to send it anyway. Because it sounded so much like what I thought years ago. I mean, in the same township, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I know it's a different set of commissioners, but is this happening all over again? So I sent a message to Jillian, and before the hour was out, I swear, Jillian was sitting in my dining room, and we were copying court documents from that case a long time ago. Yeah, it was a power plant. In actuality, There again, I know harping on the same point of making sure that you're aware of what's going on in your township, because it's very important that you show up at those meetings, because had my late husband, Grant, and I not showed up at that very first meeting, there would have been nothing that anybody could have done about it. But it started out looking like it was going to be a pumping station. Just a little electrical pumping station. That's what it looked like in the ad that they put in the paper. But it ended up being two gas-fired jet engine turbines, two 60-foot tall emission stacks, and a 500,000-gallon oil tank that they were going to use in case they couldn't get natural gas. So I mean, it wasn't going to be a small thing, that's for sure. And it was going to be in a very rural area of our township, about feet away from the soccer fields where kids play, maybe a mile or more, a little more than our elementary school, McCall Elementary, and our Penn Middle School, and maybe 2 miles from where the high school sits. You know, so all this to me just did not make sense. You know, but here again, it's just Ray and I, just as you two, we're just filling out your first, growing pains. We went through the same thing, and we put out flyers, and we tried to engage people in the community. And at that last zoning meeting, when they were going to vote one way or the other, all these people showed up. We had no idea who they were. I mean, this was like an Aaron Brockovich type movie. I felt like I was in, And that was the start of the Conservation Association of Penn Township area, CAPA. And we fought very similar fights, just like what we're going through right now, where they don't have standing. You can't protest because you weren't there. You don't own property. I mean, they tried to sue Ray and I for I think it was $6.2 million.
Wow.
So I mean,
just for having to
same type of thing of what's happening here. But at the end of the whole process, the power plant is not there. There are beautiful homes there right now. And the very last scene of this movie, I think, would show Ray standing in the area where they were already moving dirt around. And the policeman came up to Ray and said, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. And he said, well, I'm Ray Grant. I'm just making sure they put this property back the way it was. And he said, you have every right to be here, Ray. And he left. And so it's those types of things, those that we all have to stand up for. What's right.
Yeah, and it was I think 20 years to the day that you had won that case.
Yes.
That you met me.
Yeah, 20 years to the day. Yeah.
And I remember you coming to the next board meeting, Jillian, and having all those printouts that you guys had made copies of, and your enthusiasm. Guys, I met this wonderful woman who, has been through this fight before, and just sharing that experience, and just the connection of people is amazing.
Yeah.
A lot comes from just connection of people.
Yeah, I think that's something that I never expected to have. Just the connection with the community that I didn't have before. I think a lot of us have lost out on. I think that now that there's technology, now that I think it's funny because now we're social distancing, so we're missing our neighbors, we're missing that connection that we maybe had. And certainly within your little neighborhood, you probably have connections with your neighbors, but there are a lot of my neighbors that I didn't know before this, and there were a lot of the people that lived up the street that I didn't know. There are people now all over that I know because of the work that I'm doing, and I think that was just a benefit that I never expected to have. And I just remember sitting in some of those hearings and just holding the hand of the person next to me and hoping it goes our way.
Yeah, and all walks of life. I mean, there's people that work for the government. There's people that work for 5-star generals. I mean, it's just you never expect to find it right here in your own hometown, which we have a small community here. But you do. You have all walks of life here.
Yeah. and not only professional backgrounds, but age and race and gender. And I mean, we have such a wide spectrum of support. Yeah. Which I think just further goes to the testament of what we have worked so hard to stand up for. Mm-hmm. How many people we do affect and reach, the reality of just how important it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and Siobhan, that's a really good point, because when we talk about environmental justice, we also have to have conversations about social justice, and they go hand in hand. And it's communities that are poor communities, it's communities of color that really a lot of times are being impacted by these things, and we see it in Pittsburgh, and we see the impacts of air quality in Pittsburgh, and the people that have been, dealing with air quality issues for decades. And, we moved to a rural area because we didn't want to live in a city. We didn't want to live near the, they're near this industrial complex. But then now the industrial complexes are coming to us. And so it's like, well, wait a minute. And then you go into communities like Braddock. We were in Braddock helping folks out there, and talking to folks at the library for a couple meetings that they had out there. And if a company like U.S. Steel can't be in compliance with EPA standards as it is now, what is additional development there, industrial development there, like a new industrial well pad, going to have on the impact of air quality if they can't even meet the standards, and they haven't been for decades, haven't been meeting standards?
What's the security and assurance for the neighbors and communities?
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's right. And so what we try to do now is really try to fight for those people as well, and mentor them, and provide resources and try to pay forward. We were so fortunate to have, we had Mountain Watershed Association, who really helped us get started, helped us with direct support funding, which was so amazing. That's how we were able to fund our first meeting, and buy some equipment that we didn't have, and all those things. And we needed a fiscal sponsor, before we became a 501c3. April 27th, next Monday, is our 5-year anniversary.
Incredible. Wow.
So 5 years ago, on April 27th, I remember we filled out the paperwork and sent it in, and we were waiting to hear back. You had to fill out all your corporation paperwork, and then it was like till the whole rest of the year we were actually filling out. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But when we finally got our 501c3 status, they made it retroactive to the date that we incorporated, which was April 27th. So a date I will never forget.
Yeah.
So, well, are there some things you want to say while we're wrapping up? Because we're almost out of time for our lunch hour.
Well, thank you. I want to say thanks to you both for still being a voice and a part of this organization for the community. It was wonderful to be a part of it for so long, and happy to be at the groundbreaking of the organization. And still happy to support from afar, but thank you for all of your continued support and work. And thanks to the members as well. Thanks for sticking with us and being a voice for us as well.
Yeah, I definitely want to thank the members for their support. And, it's important to remember that pollution knows no boundaries. It will not stay over top of Allegheny County or Beaver County or whatever, so it's important that we reach out to all our neighborhoods. Bye, sweetheart.
Well, Siobhan just left us. Thank you, and Siobhan, and thank you, Pat, for joining us today. It was such a pleasure, kind of walking down memory lane a little bit. Next week for our virtual lunch, we're going to do this every week. Especially, I would love to keep doing this every week, in general, because I think it's great for people to kind of know what's going on. But at least for the time in our office is closed, we're going to have our virtual office hours. And so I really encourage people to engage with us, to ask us questions. You know, this is your time to ask us questions. If there's another time that might be better for you instead of a lunch, you know, we're open to suggestions. You know, we are here to work for the community, so we want to make sure the community has access to what, you know, to interact with us. We're also on our anniversary going to be doing our happy hour. So come join us for our happy hour. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to play some games. You can register on our website. We have a registration page on protectpt.org. Go to our events and you'll see all of our upcoming events. We have some really fun events planned. We decided, since we're in kind of quarantine right now, that we're going to start to plan some events that we can do virtually so people can interact. We did get, and I don't have a date yet, but we got confirmation from Eliza Griswold. She's a Pulitzer Prize winning author. She wrote Amity and Prosperity, The Fracturing of America, and she has agreed to come and do a book reading with us. We're thinking through some screenings of some different films. So if you have ideas like that you'd love to share with us, we'd love to hear from you, either on our Facebook or our website. Pat, do you have anything else to say before we go?
No, I'm just appreciative of the opportunity to get to do this, and it certainly has brightened up a very monotonous couple of weeks for sure.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time, Pat. Thank you so much, and we'll be talking to you soon, because Pat is still so active in our effort. Siobhan recently, last year maybe, moved into the city. So, but we still keep in touch with her a lot, and so we wish her and her family the best of luck, and we wish everyone safety and health. If there's something that you need, groceries, resources, please let us know, because we want to be here for you. So thanks everybody for joining us today. Bye.
Bye-bye.